The Republican National Convention in Florida just days away now. The city of Tampa is bracing itself for a possible hurricane and protests. Occupy Tampa protesters are descending upon the city. They plan to charter in busloads of people, and it looks like the city is taking every possible precaution, from clearing hundreds of jail beds to drones patrolling the skies. It looks like protesters will remain on close watch. To talk more about what occupiers have in store for the RNC and DNC, Jared Hamill, spokesperson for Coalition to March on RNC, joins us now. Welcome, Jared. So first off, want to get your reaction to this very heavy-handed security we're seeing over there in Tampa.
Well, it looks like a police state. We have helicopters flying overhead at all times of the day. We have the city's police department, who's purchased a tank and parades it around the city. Meanwhile, all we're having on Monday is a peaceful permitted march with 5,000 protesters.
And I just saw today reports that for the first time ever, a drone will patrol the skies and monitor what's going on the ground surrounding the convention. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was talking about before. Basically, you know, we're just raising our voice. We have demands. We're demanding good jobs, healthcare, affordable education, equality, and peace. And with that, the city, the state, the police are gearing up for war. They're the ones who are using drones. Drones are only meant to used for surveillance and the wars overseas. And all we're doing is having a protest. We're gathering thousands of people together to say no to an agenda of poverty, war, and hate. And the police what they're doing is they're trying to stifle our movement.
You know, part of what is instigating this fear is this warning or this memo out recently from the Department of Homeland Security. Want to bring up a part of that memo. It states, quote, prior to the 2008 RNC, anarchists, extremists discussed blockading bridges and skywalks in Minneapolis, Minnesota, targeting local corporate headquarters, taking over a radio station, and identifying delegate lodging locations and the location of police stations and emergency routes. FBI and DHS assesses with high confidence anarchist extremists will target similar infrastructure in Tampa and Charlotte with potentially significant impacts on public safety and transportation. And, you know, Jared, the media, the mainstream media is reacting to this memo. Here's a look at the way they're covering it.
Tampa police and federal authorities are planning for the worst, including for rowdy anarchist groups who may try to disrupt the Republican National Convention.
The FBI and DHS issued a bulletin today essentially urging police across the country to watch out for indications that activists in their areas might be planning to go to the conventions to disrupt them in some way. The bulletin is titled, quote, Potential for Violent or Criminal Action by Anarchist Extremists During the 2012 National Political Convention.
The FBI and Department of Homeland Security warned state and local law enforcement that anarchists are targeting the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, too. And they could even try to use improvised explosive devices.
So, Jared, what do you think? Could these fears be being blown out of proportion? And do you think protesters as a whole are being branded or stereotyped as anarchists?
Well, I think that what is being done here is that protesters are being branded as terrorists, first and foremost. Every time in this country people get together, people unify in a mass movement, they are heavily repressed by the state and the police. And that's exactly what they're doing now. All we are demanding, our people's agenda. We're saying no to the status quo of the 1%. We're saying no to an agenda of poverty, war, and hate. And so with that, they're not only blowing things out of proportion, but they're trying to say that, what these people are doing they're basically terrorists. And look, protesters are just like anybody else. Have real demands. We've been for so long, and we're tired of it.
Okay. Proponents of this heavy-handed security are going to say, this is a huge convention. There's going to be a lot of high-profile people there, and we need to take every necessary precaution in the name of public safety. What do you say to that?
Well, Well, I say if you look at any protest, if you look at any mass demonstration, where does the violence always come from? The violence has always come from the police. If you look at 2008, the March on the RNC in St. Paul, innocent, peaceful protesters and the media were shot at by police with tear gas and rubber bullets. Now, why do protesters shot at, by police? We're not doing anything but just raising our voice and having clear demands. I think, the fact is that the state doesn't like it when people get together. They don't like it when people unify. And so with that, they're going to do everything they can. They're going to frame us as terrorists. They're going to frame us as whatever. But the fact is that, we're getting together on August 27th, and we're going to have a massive unified march. And we're going to march on the Republican National Convention.
Okay, Occupy protesters have in the past been criticized for not having a clear message. You say that you have clear demands. Can you talk about what those clear demands are?
Well, we're promoting a people's agenda. We're saying no to the Republicans, and we're saying no to the 1%. With that, we're demanding good jobs, health care, affordable education, equality, and peace. It's something that every person in this country, and probably throughout the world, needs. And so with that, we've unified labor unions, anti-war groups, immigrants' rights groups, student groups from all over the country to come down here to Tampa to march against the Republicans and 1%. And with that, we don't endorse the Democrats. We don't endorse other parties, because the fact is that, most of the groups are actually going to go up to Charlotte the following week to march on the DNC as well.
All right, Jared, so we are just days away now from the big event. Can you tell us more about the events you have in store?
So yeah, basically on August 27th, people from around the country will be rallying in a park in North Downtown Tampa. And we're going to hear from speakers, from every movement in America. And from there, we're going to march through the streets of downtown Tampa. 5,000 people demanding good jobs, health care, affordable education, equality, and peace. And with that, we're going to go within sight and sound of the convention. And we're going to tell the Republicans, go home. We don't want your agenda of poverty, war, and hate. And then most of the groups from there are going to go to the DNC the following week, because we're tired of the 1%. We're tired of being oppressed. We're tired of the wars overseas and the systematic attacks on just about every person in this country.
Right, and lastly, just want to ask you, you're there on the ground in Tampa right now. Based on what you're observing, how do you expect things to play out?
Well, I expect things to go smoothly. We're having a permanent peaceful march. We're going to have 5,000 protesters in the streets of Tampa, and it's going to be great. So I invite everybody to come out and join and say no to the Republicans.
All right. Well, we have a correspondent making her way over there shortly, and she will keep a close eye on how everything does play out. Jared, thanks for coming on the show. That was Jared Hamill, spokesperson for Coalition to March on the RNC.